the elders in the village liked to say. When the sun shines too bright, even shadows begin to complain. That was how the story of Grace began. Grace was an only child. She lived with her parents at the edge of a quiet village, where the red earth met long rows of yam mounds and tall palm trees. Their house was made of clay, with a thatched roof and a small veranda where her mother liked to sit in the evenings and shell beans. Her father, Peter, was a quiet man. He believed that work and silence solved most problems. He rose before the cockcrow every day, carried his hoe over his shoulder, and walked to the farm without many words. Her mother, Mary, was the opposite. She laughed loudly, sang while she cooked, and always found something to say to make the day feel lighter. They were not rich people. They owned a small piece of land with yams, cassava, and a few banana trees. They wore simple clothes and shared simple meals. But there was peace in their home. In the evenings, they ate together outside under the moonlight, while crickets sang in the grass. Grace grew up quietly beside them. She did not think of herself as special. She fetched water from the stream, swept the compound, cooked with her mother, and helped her father on the farm when he needed extra hands. To her, life was normal. But to the village, she was not normal. From the time she turned 13, people began to stop and stare when she passed. Her skin was smooth and brown like wet clay after rain. Her eyes were calm and deep, like still water that held secrets. Her hair, even when tied in a simple bun, framed her face gently. Her smile made even tired people smile back. The women in the village started calling her Beauty. Some went further and called her Beauty of the Gods, shaking their heads as she walked past, as if they were looking at something they did not fully understand. Grace did not like the name. She did not ask for it. But a name, once it enters a village, is hard to remove. First, the name felt small like a joke. But slowly it grew heavy. Whenever she walked to the village square, some girls giggled and whispered behind her. Whenever she went to the stream, she felt eyes on her back. Sometimes boys would stare too long. Some older women would nod slowly and say, "Her parents must be careful. A girl that shines like this attracts both good and evil." The girls who disliked her watched all of this. 3 of them stood out: Anna, Beth, and Clara. They moved together like a small storm, always whispering, always planning something. One afternoon at the stream, Grace heard them for the first time. She was filling her clay pot when Anna's voice cut through the sound of rushing water. "See how she walks like she owns the village," Anna hissed. "Just because her face is fine," Beth added. Clara laughed, a sharp, dry laugh. Grace turned and met their eyes. Their faces were full of amusement, but their eyes carried something darker. She gave a small, shy smile, hoping kindness would soften them. Instead, they turned away and whispered louder. From that day, Grace became their daily topic. "Beauty, fine girl is not an achievement," Beth said one morning as Grace passed. "Do you think the prince will marry you because your skin shines?" Clara added another day. Grace tried to ignore them. She went home with her head high, pretending she didn't care. But when she stepped into her small room and closed the wooden door, the tears always came. Mary noticed. Mothers always notice. One evening, she entered the room and found Grace wiping her eyes. She sat beside her, placed a gentle hand on her daughter's head, and said, "My child, even sweet honey attracts jealous flies. Do not hide your light because others cannot handle it." Grace nodded, but her heart was heavy. Being beautiful in a small village did not feel like a blessing. It felt like a burden she did not know how to carry. As months went by, the whispers around Grace began to change. They were no longer just jokes. They became sharp, poisonous words. Some people started saying that her beauty was not natural. They said maybe her mother had gone to a shrine to ask for it. That perhaps some spirit walked with the girl. It was all lies, but lies like that grow quickly. Children at the stream started calling her names. "Snake girl," some shouted. "Spirit child," others said, laughing and running away. Grace walked with her eyes on the ground, carrying her water pot as if it was the only thing keeping her on her feet. Mary became angry. "They will not spoil my child's name," she said one evening, pacing across the compound. Peter, sitting on a small wooden stool, shook his head. "People always talk," he said quietly. "If you chase every mouth, you will never rest." But words can cut like knives. After a while, Mary stopped sending Grace to the market. She did not want her child to stand in front of traders and customers and hear laughter behind her back. Grace stayed home more. She cooked, swept, washed and helped on the farm. Still, loneliness bit into her heart. From behind the bamboo fence, she could sometimes hear the girls passing, talking loudly, singing, joking, making plans. She watched them with quiet eyes. She wanted what they had: friendship, laughter, a group who called her name for something other than mockery. Village, beating his gong. Gong! Gong! He shouted. The prince will choose a wife. There will be a dance at the palace in 3 days. Every unmarried maiden should come. The village exploded with excitement. Women ran to open old wooden boxes. Wrappers and blouses were shaken out, washed, and spread in the sun. Girls gathered to practice dance steps in the square. The drums in the palace yard began to sound in the evenings, as musicians prepared. Grace said nothing. A dance at the palace only sounded like another place to be laughed at. But Mary was firm. You will go, she said, standing in front of her. Do not let fear cage your destiny. Who knows? That might be the day your life changes. Grace looked at her mother's serious face and nodded slowly. She did not want to hurt her. That night, they opened Mary's old wooden chest. Inside lay wrappers from her younger days. Together, they picked a deep blue wrapper with small yellow patterns and a soft blouse that sat gently on the shoulders. Mary cleaned her cowrie necklace and placed it in Grace's hand. You will wear this, she said. You will walk into that palace with your head high. Remember whose child you are. Grace looked at her reflection in a small cracked mirror. Her heart warmed a little. For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine dancing at the palace, not as a target of mockery, but as a girl among girls. Far away, near the stream, Anna, Beth, and Clara were planning something very different. They sat on a large rock by the water. Do you think she will come to the dance? Beth asked, tossing a stone into the stream. She better not, Clara muttered. If she steps into that palace, the prince will only see her. Anna's eyes grew cold. Then we must make sure she does not step into the palace at all. Jealousy had now grown legs. The next day, they walked to Grace's compound, carrying roasted groundnuts and ripe mangoes. They knocked at the gate and waited, smiling as if they had never spoken an unkind word in their lives. Grace opened the gate and almost dropped the broom in her hand. Grace, Anna said softly, we came to visit you. They apologized. They said they had been foolish, that they were jealous and childish, that they now wanted to be friends. They sat with her mother, praised her cooking, helped sweep the compound. Mary watched them with sharp eyes. That evening she pulled Grace aside. Be careful, she whispered. Snakes do not change. They only shed their skin. But Grace's heart was tired. The sound of laughter in her compound felt good. For the first time in a long while, she heard girls her age call her name without mockery. She wanted to believe this new friendship was real. And so, she opened her heart to them, not knowing that jealousy was now wearing a sweet smile. Days passed. The 3 girls visited almost every afternoon. They braided Grace's hair, sang songs with her, and watched her dance. They clapped for her, told her she danced better than anyone in the village. Slowly, Grace began to relax in their presence. She laughed more. She spoke more. The pain in her heart softened a little. One afternoon, as they sat in her room, Grace opened her mother's chest and brought out the clothes she planned to wear for the dance. The deep blue wrapper and soft blouse glowed in the light that came through the small window. Beth gasped. You look like a queen, she said. Clara nodded, though her smile did not reach her eyes. Anna touched the fabric and whispered, the prince will not be able to look away. They all laughed, but their laughter was not the same. Grace's was light. Theirs was heavy. That evening, after they left Grace's compound, they met near the edge of the forest. The sky was turning orange. Goats were returning home. Smoke rose from cooking fires in the village. Anna's voice was firm. Tomorrow we start, she said. Start what? Beth asked, though she already knew. We dig, Anna replied. We will make a pit. Wait. She will fall in, and she will not reach the palace. The next day, when the sun was still young, they slipped into the forest with hoes and small shovels. They chose a place off the narrow path that led toward the palace. There, surrounded by tall grass and quiet trees, they began to dig. They dug for hours. The red earth came up in piles. Their hands blistered. Their backs ached. But their hearts stayed hard. Jealousy is a strong fuel. As days passed, the pit grew deeper. At first, it reached their knees, then their waists, then their shoulders. They took turns climbing in and out, using roots and cut branches as support. When they finally stopped, the pit was deep enough that no one could climb out easily. On the last evening before the dance, they stood at the edge of their work. "Tomorrow," Anna said, breathing hard. "She will follow us here. She will fall. And we will walk away." That night in her house, Grace slept uneasily. Her mind was full of the coming day. She imagined the palace, the drums, the crowd, the prince sitting on a carved chair beside the king. A small smile stayed on her lips as she slept. In the middle of the night, Mary woke up from a strange dream. In her dream, she saw her daughter standing on the edge of a dark hole, calling for help, while distant laughter echoed. Mary sat up, her heart beating fast. She prayed quietly, asking for protection over her child. When the first cock crowed, she went to her daughter's mat and shook her gently. "Grace, wake up." Grace opened her eyes slowly. "Mama." Mary looked at her with worried eyes. "Do not follow anyone today," she said. "Go to the palace alone. Walk on the main road where everybody can see you. Promise me." Grace frowned, confused, but nodded. "I promise, Mama." She did not know that somewhere in the forest, a dark pit was already waiting for her. The morning of the dance came bright and clear. The village was alive. Drums sounded faintly from the palace yard. Women hurried, tying wrappers tightly around their waists. Girls oiled their skin and adjusted their head ties. In their small house, Mary helped Grace dress. She tied the deep blue wrapper firmly around her daughter's waist and adjusted the blouse on her shoulders. Then she placed the cowrie necklace gently around Grace's neck. When Grace stood, Mary stepped back and smiled with tears in her eyes. "You look like the morning sun," she said. "Walk with your head high." Grace hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Mama." Peter watched from the doorway, his quiet eyes full of pride. He did not say much, but he nodded slowly. For him, that nod was a long speech. Mary left early to help other women cook at the palace. Grace stayed back to finish some chores before leaving. She swept the compound and washed the small clay dishes used for breakfast. As she was about to step out, she heard familiar voices outside the gate. "Grace!" Anna called. Grace opened the gate. Anna, Beth, and Clara stood there, dressed in bright wrappers, beads on their necks and wrists, head ties carefully tied. They looked like flowers in full bloom. "We came to go with you," Beth said. "Let's follow the shortcut through the forest. We don't want everyone staring at our clothes before we arrive." Grace's heart skipped. Mary's words echoed in her mind. "Do not follow anyone. Go to the palace on the main road." I promised my mother I would," she began. Clara rolled her eyes. "You are still listening to your mother's old stories," she scoffed. "Are we not your friends? Or do you think we will leave you on the road?" Anna smiled sweetly. "We just want to arrive with you. Imagine us walking into the palace together." Grace hesitated. Her chest felt tight. But loneliness is a powerful thing. And she did not want them to think she did not trust them. "Okay," she said quietly. "Let's go." They walked together, laughing and making small jokes. At first, they walked on the main path, where other people could still be seen at a distance. But soon, Anna led them onto a smaller path, then a narrower one. The trees grew thicker. The sounds of the village faded. The birds that had been singing grew silent. Even the air felt heavier. Grace looked around, unease rising inside her. "Are you sure this is a shortcut?" she asked. "Yes," Anna said quickly. "We are almost there. Just a little more," Beth added. They came to a place where the ground was covered with leaves and branches. Anna walked ahead, then turned and pointed. "Grace, come this way," she said. "The ground is smoother here." Grace took a step forward. Then another. The earth opened beneath her feet. Her scream sliced through the quiet forest as she fell into the hidden pit. She hit the bottom hard. A sharp pain shot through her leg and side. Dust rose around her. For a moment everything spun. When her vision cleared, she looked up. Anna, Beth, and Clara stood at the edge of the pit, looking down at her. There was no kindness on their faces now, only cold satisfaction. "Look at you," Anna said slowly. "Grace, the village beauty. You wanted to go and shine in the palace, right? Shine there." Beth laughed, a hard, ugly sound. Clara folded her arms. "Let us see if the prince will still want you now." Grace's heart shattered. "Please," she cried. "Help me. My leg hurts. Cannot climb out. Why are you doing this?" But they only looked at her for a few more seconds. Then they turned and walked away. Their laughter grew faint as they disappeared through the trees. Grace screamed. She clawed at the walls of the pit, trying to climb. But the earth crumbled under her fingers. Pain burned through her body. She shouted until her voice cracked. No answer came. The sun moved slowly across the sky. Light shifted in the pit, then began to fade. The forest grew darker and colder. By evening, Grace was shivering, her body weak, her throat dry. Tears ran down her dusty cheeks. In the palace yard, the drums beat loudly. Girls danced in circles. The prince watched, but his face showed no joy. Something in his heart felt empty, as if someone was missing. Mary looked around for her daughter, her heart trembling. Grace was nowhere to be seen. When she asked the three girls, they shrugged and lied, saying they had not seen her since morning. Fear wrapped around Mary's chest like a tight rope. She went to Peter. Together, they went to the king and told him their daughter was missing. The king sent guards into the forest, but they returned with no sign of her. That night Mary did not sleep. She sat on the floor, clutching her wrapper, whispering prayers into the darkness. In the forest, at the bottom of the pit, Grace lay on her side, staring up at the tiny patch of sky. The stars blinked faintly above. She felt small, forgotten, buried by people she had wanted to call friends. At that moment, one thought filled her mind. No one is coming. I am truly alone. Dawn broke slowly over the village. The sky turned from black to deep blue, then to a soft gray. Roosters crowed. Smoke rose from the roofs as women lit their morning fires. Out in the forest, a hunter named Daniel stepped onto the narrow path with his bow and quiver. He worked for the palace, bringing meat for the king's table. This morning felt like any other. The ground was wet with dew. The air was cool. Leaves brushed against his legs as he walked. Then he heard it. Faint sound. Broken voice. "Help, please. Somebody help me." Daniel stopped. He listened. The voice came again, weaker. He followed it, pushing aside branches, stepping over roots, until he reached the edge of the pit. When he looked down, his eyes widened. A girl lay at the bottom, covered in dust, her wrapper stained, her hair tangled. She looked up at him with tired, fearful eyes. "Please," she whispered. "Don't leave me." "I will not leave you," Daniel said firmly. He quickly tied a rope around a strong tree root, tested it, and climbed down into the pit. Gently he helped Grace sit up. She winced as pain shot through her leg. "What is your name?" he asked. "Grace," she answered weakly. Daniel knew that name. Everyone knew the girl called Beauty. He lifted her onto his back carefully and climbed out of the pit with slow, strong steps. Once on the ground, he gave her water from his calabash. Her dry throat swallowed eagerly. Daniel thought of taking her home, but another thought came. The king needed to see this. The village needed to hear this. So he turned and walked not towards the village edge, but towards the palace. The palace gates opened when the guards saw him. They recognized Daniel and quickly noticed the girl on his back. Inside the courtyard, the king sat with the queen, speaking with elders about the failed dance. The prince stood nearby, his face still troubled. Daniel bowed. "My king," he said, "I found this girl in a deep pit in the forest." When he turned, Mary gasped. Peter froze. Grace lay there, eyes heavy but alive. "Grace!" Mary cried, rushing forward. She knelt beside her daughter, holding her face in both hands, tears falling freely. Peter's quiet eyes shone with relief as he placed a hand on his child's shoulder. They carried Grace gently to a mat in the shade. When she had rested and drunk more water, the king told her, "My child, speak. Tell us what happened." In a shaking voice, stopping sometimes to breathe, Grace told them everything. How the girls had mocked her for months. How they suddenly became friends. How they visited, touched her clothes, praised her. How they led her into the forest with lies about a shortcut. How the ground opened. How they stood above, laughed and walked away. The crowd that had gathered in the palace yard listened in shocked silence. Murmurs rose like small waves. The king's face darkened. "Bring Anna, Beth and Clara," he ordered. The guards ran into the village and soon returned with the three girls. Their bright clothes from the dance were now wrinkled. Their faces were tense. "Do you know this girl?" the king asked, pointing at Grace. "Yes, my king," Anna said quickly. "But we did not." "Silence," the king commanded. "Did you walk with her to the forest?" They looked at each other. Beth's lips trembled. Clara's hand shook. Anna tried to stay bold, but her eyes could not meet the king's. The silence stretched. Then Beth broke. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "We were jealous," she cried. "Our mother always compared us to her. She said we should be like Grace. We wanted to teach her a lesson. We thought we would scare her. We did not think. Her voice faded. Clara began to cry too, nodding in shame. Anna's shoulders finally dropped. The king rose slowly to his feet. His voice boomed through the courtyard. "Jealousy," he said, "is a fire that burns first the one who carries it. You tried to bury another person's light in a pit. You did not only shame her. You shamed this village. You shamed your families. You shamed your own spirits." He turned to the guards. "Take them away. They will be locked for many seasons. When they are released, they will live as outcasts. No one will buy from them or sell to them. No one will join with them. Anyone who chooses their company will share in their punishment." The girls cried and begged, but it was too late. The king's words were final. The guards led them away as the crowd watched in heavy silence. Then slowly the prince stepped forward. He walked to where Grace sat, still weak but upright. He looked at her, not with pity, but with quiet respect. He bent slightly, took her hand and helped her stand. He brushed the dust gently from her wrapper. Then he turned to the crowd and said, "Yesterday I watched many girls dance, but my heart did not rest on any of them. Today I have seen a girl who fell into a pit, and still rose with truth in her mouth and light in her eyes. My heart has found its bride." The courtyard exploded in murmurs, then cheers. Some clapped, some cried. Some simply stared in amazement. Mary covered her mouth with both hands, tears of joy flowing freely now. Peter, the quiet man, actually smiled. The king nodded slowly, pleased. "So it shall be," he said. "Grace, the girl they tried to bury, will stand beside my son as his wife." Daniel, the hunter, was rewarded with land, a new hunting bow, and honor before the people. As for Grace, she did not forget what had happened. She did not pretend the pain never existed. But she learned something deep. People may dig a pit for you out of jealousy, but if your heart stays clean, you will not remain there. The elders added a new saying to their list. Jealousy digs a grave, but innocence refuses to stay buried. And that, the storytellers would say at the end, is the story of Grace, the beauty who fell into a pit, and still rose to become a queen. Moral lessons. Every story leaves a lesson behind. Grace's story reminds us that jealousy never builds, it only destroys. It teaches that beauty is not the problem, envy is. That no matter how deep others try to bury your light, truth and innocence will always find a way to rise. And above all, it shows that forgiveness and humility shine brighter than revenge. Thank you for watching Just Folktale. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. For more beautiful African tales told with heart, truth, and wisdom. Until next time, remember, goodness may stumble, but it never falls forever.